Buddha or Karl Marx by Babasaheb Ambedkar. 7. Whose means are more efficacious? We must now consider whose means are more lasting. One has to choose between government by force and government by moral disposition. As Burke has said, force cannot be a lasting means. In his speech on conciliation with America, he uttered this memorable warning. First, sir, permit me to observe that the use of force alone is but temporary. It may subdue for a moment, but it does not remove the necessity of subduing again, and a nation is not governed which is perpetually to be conquered. My next objection is its uncertainty. Terror is not always the effect of force, and an armament is not a victory. If you do not succeed, you are without resource, for conciliation failing, force remains, but force failing, no further hope of reconciliation is left. Power and authority are sometimes bought by kindness, but they can never be begged as alms by an impoverished and defeated violence. A further objection to force is that you impair the object by your very endeavors to preserve it. The thing you fought for is the thing which you recovered but depreciated, sunk, wasted, and consumed in the contest. In a sermon addressed to the bhikkhus, the Buddha has shown the difference between the rule by righteousness and rule by law, that is, force. Addressing the brethren, he said, 2. Long ago, brethren, there was a sovereign overlord named Strong-Tire. The king ruled in righteousness, lord of the four quarters of the earth, conqueror, the protector of his people. He was the possessor of the celestial wheel. He lived in supremacy over this earth to its ocean bounds, having conquered it, not by the courage, by the sword, but by righteousness. 3. Now, brethren, after many years, after many hundred years, after many thousand years, King Strong-Tire commanded a certain man, saying, Thou shouldest see, sir, the celestial wheel has sunk a little, has slipped down from its place. Bring me word. Now, after many hundred years, it had slipped down from its place. On seeing this, he went to King Strong-Tire and said, No, sir, for a truth that the celestial wheel has sunk, has slipped down from its place. The king Strong-Tire, brethren, let the prince, his eldest son, be sent for and speak thus. Behold, dear boy, my celestial wheel has sunk a little, has slipped down from its place. Now it has been told me if the celestial wheel of a wheel-turning king shall sink down, shall slip down from its place, that king has not much longer to live. I have had my fill of human pleasures. It's time to seek after divine joys. Come, dear boy, take thou charge over this earth bounded by the ocean. But I, shaving hair and beard, and dolling yellow robes, will go forth from home into the homeless state. So, brethren, King Strong-Tire, having in due form established his eldest son on the throne, shaved hair and bearded, donned yellow robes, and went forth from home into a homeless state. But after the seventh day after the royal hermit had gone forth, the celestial wheel disappeared. 4. Then a certain man went to the king and told him, saying, Know, O king, for a truth, that the celestial wheel has disappeared. Then that king, brethren, was grieved thereat, and afflicted with sorrow. And he went to the royal hermit and told him, saying, Know, sir, for a truth, that the celestial wheel had disappeared. And the anointed king, so saying, the royal hermit made reply, Grieve thou not, dear son, that the celestial wheel has disappeared, nor be afflicted that the celestial wheel has disappeared. For no paternal heritage of thin, dear son, is the celestial wheel. But verily, dear son, turn thou in the Aryan turning of the wheel turners. Act up to the noble ideal of duty set before themselves by the true sovereigns of the world. Then it may well be that if thou carry on the Aryan duty of the wheel-turning monarch, and on the feast of the moon thou wilt fall, with bared head to keep the feast on the chief upper terrace, to the celestial wheel will manifest itself with its thousand spokes, its tire, navel, and all its parts complete. 5. Put what, sire, is the Arya duty of the wheel-turning monarch? This, dear son, that thou, leaning on the norm, the law of truth and righteousness, honoring, respecting, and revering it, doing the homage to it, hallowing it, being thyself to a norm banner, a norm signal, having the norm as thy master, should provide the right to watch, ward, and protection for thine own folk, for the army, for the nobles, for vassals, for Brahmins and housefolk, for the army, for the nobles, for the town and county dwellers, for the religious world, and for beasts and birds. Throughout thy kingdom let no wrongdoing prevail, and whosoever in thy kingdom is poor, do let him wealth be given. And when, dear son, in thy kingdom men of religious life, renouncing the carelessness arising from intoxication of the senses, and devoted to forbearance and sympathy, each mastering self, each claiming self, each protecting self, shall come to thee from time to time and question the concerning what is good and what is bad, what is criminal and what is not, what is to be done and what is to be left undone, what line of action will in the long run work for weal and for woe? Thou shouldest hear what they should have to say, and thou shouldest deter them from evil, and bid them take up what is good. This, dear son, is the Aryan duty of a sovereign of the world. Even so, sire, answered the anointed king, and obeying and carried out the Aryan duty of a sovereign lord. To him, thus behaving, when on the feast of the full moon he had gone in the observance with bared head to the chief upper terrace, the celestial wheel revealed itself, with its thousand spokes, its tire, its navel, and all its parts complete. And seeing this, it occurred to the king, it has been told to me that the king to whom on such an occasion the celestial wheel reveals itself completely becomes a wheel-turning monarch. May even I also become a sovereign of the world. 6. Then, brethren, the king arose from his seat, and uncovering his robe from one shoulder, took it in his left hand, the pitcher, and with his right hand sprinkled upon the celestial wheel, saying, Roll onward, O Lord wheel, go forth and overcome, O Lord wheel. Then, brethren, the celestial wheel rolled onward towards the region of the east. And after it went the wheel-turning king, and with him his army, horses and chariots and elephants and men. And in whatever place, brethren, the wheel stopped, there the king, the victorious warlord, took up his abode, and with him his fourfold army. Then all the rival kings in the region of the east came to the sovereign king and said, Come, O mighty king, welcome, O mighty king, all is thine, O mighty king, teach us, O mighty king. The king saw the sovereign warlord spoke thus, Ye shall slay no living thing, ye shall not take that which has not been given, ye shall not wrongingly touch bodily desires, ye shall not speak any lie, ye shall not drink any maddening drink, enjoy your possessions as you have been wont to do. 7. Then, brethren, the celestial wheel, plunging down to the eastern ocean, rose up out again, and rolled outwards into the region of the south. And there all happened as happened in the east. And in like manner the celestial wheel, plunging into the southern ocean, rose up out again, and rolled outward into the region of the west and of the north. And there too happened as it happened in the south and the west. Then, when the celestial wheel had gone forth, conquering over the whole earth to its ocean boundary, it returned to the royal city and stood, so that one might think it fixed in front of the judgment hall at entrance to the inner apartments of the king, the wheel turner. lighting up with its glory the facade of the inner apartments of the king, the sovereign of the world. 8. And a second king, brethren, also wheel turning monarch, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and a sixth, and a seventh king, a victorious warlord, after many years, after many 100 years, after many 1,000 years, command a certain man, saying, If thou shouldst see, Sirrah, that the celestial wheel is sunk down, has slid from its place, bring me word. Even so, sire, replied the man. So after many years, after many 100 years, after many 1,000 years, that man saw that the celestial wheel had sunk down, had become dislodged from its place. And so seeing, he went to the king, the warlord, and told him. Then that king did even as strong tire had done, and on the seventh day after the royal hermit had gone forth, the celestial wheel disappeared. Then a certain man went and told the king. Then the king was grieved at the disappearance of the wheel and afflicted with grief. But he did not go to the hermit king to ask concerning the Aryan duty of sovereign warlord. But his own ideas, forsooth, he governed his people, and they so governed differently from what they had been, did not prosper as they used to under former kings who had carried out the Aryan duty of the sovereign king. Thus, brethren, the ministers and courtiers, the finance officials, the guards and doorkeepers, and they who lived by sacred verses came to this king and spoke thus. Thy people, O king, whilst thou governest them by thine own ideas differently from the way to which they were used when former kings were carrying out the Aryan duty, prosper not. Now there are in thy kingdom ministers and courtiers, finance officers, guards and custodians, and they who live by sacred verses, both all of us and others, who keep the knowledge of the Aryan duty of the sovereign king. O king, do thou ask us concerning it. To thee thus asking we will declare it. 9. Then, brethren, the king, having made the ministers and all the rest sit down together, asked them about the Aryan duty of sovereign warlord, and they declared it unto him. And when he had heard them, he had provided the due watch and ward protection, but on the destitute he bestowed no wealth, and because this was not done, poverty became widespread. When poverty was thus become rife, a certain man took that which others had not given him, what people call by theft. Him they caught and brought before the king, saying, This man, O king, has taken that which was not given to him, and that is theft. Thereupon the king spoke thus to the man, Is it true, Sirrah, that thou hast taken what no man gave thee, hast committed what man call theft? It is true, O king, but why? O king, I have nothing to keep me alive. Then the king bestowed wealth on that man, saying, With this wealth, sir, do thou both keep thyself alive, maintain thy parents, maintain children and wife, carry on thy business. Even so, O king, replied the man. 10. Now another man, brethren, took by theft what was not given him. Him they caught him, and brought before the king, and told him, saying, This man, O king, hath taken by theft what was not given to him. And the king spoke and did even as he had spoken and done to the former man. 11. Now men heard, brethren, that to them who had taken by theft what was not given to them, the king was giving wealth. And hearing they thought, Let us then take by theft what was not given to us. Now a certain man did so, and him they caught and charged before the king, who as before asked him why he had stolen. Because, O king, I cannot maintain myself. Then the king thought, If I bestow wealth upon any one soever who is taken by theft what was not given to him, there will hereby increase his stealing. Let me now put final stop to this and inflict condign punishment on him, have his head cut off. So he bade his man, saying, Now look ye, bind this man's arms behind him with a strong rope and tight knot, shave his head bald, lead him around with a harsh sounding drum from road to road, from crossway to crossway, take him by the southern gate in the south of the town, put a final stop to this, inflict on him uttermost penalty, cut off his head. Even so, O king, answered the man, and carried out his commands. 12. Now men heard, brethren, that they who took by theft and what was not given to them were thus put to death. And hearing they thought, Let us also now have sharp swords made ready for themselves, and them from whom we was taken what was not given to us, what they call them. Let us put a final stop to them, inflict on them the uttermost penalty, and take their heads off. And they got themselves sharp swords, and came forth to sack village and town and city, and to work highway robbery. And then whom they robbed they made an end of, cutting off their heads. 13. Thus, brethren, from goods not being bestowed on the destitute, poverty, grief, rife, from poverty growing rife, stealing increased, from the spread of stealing, violence grew space, from the growth of violence, the destruction of life common, from the frequency of murder, both the span of life in those beings and their comeliness also diminished. Now among the humans of latter span of life, brethren, a certain took by theft what was not given to him, and even as though others were accused before the king and questioned if it was true that he had stolen. Nay, O king, he replied, they are deliberately telling lies. 14. Thus, from goods not being bestowed on the destitute, poverty grew rife, stealing, violence, murder, until lying grew common. Again a certain man reported to the king, saying, Such and such a man, O king, has taken by theft what was not given to him, thus speaking evil of him. 15. And so, brethren, from goods not being bestowed on the destitute, poverty grew rife, stealing, violence, murder, lying, evil speaking grew abundant. 16. From lying there grew adultery. 17. Thus, from goods not being bestowed on the destitute, poverty, stealing, violence, murder, lying, evil speaking, immorality grew rife. 18. Among them, brethren, three things grew space, interest, wanton greed, and perverted lust. Then these three things grew apace: lack of filial piety to mother and father, lack of religious piety to holy men, lack of regard for the head of the clan. 19. There will come a time, brethren, when the descendants of those humans will have a lifespan of 10 years. Among humans of this lifespan, maidens of 5 years will be of a marriageable age. Among such humans, these kinds of taste savors will disappear. Ghee, butter, oil, sugar, salt. Among such humans, kudrusa again will be the highest kind of food. Even as today rice and curry is the highest form of food, so will kudrusa grain be then. Among such humans, the 10 moral courses of conduct will together disappear. The 10 immoral courses of action will flourish excessively. There will be no word for moral among such humans. The 10 moral courses of conduct will altogether disappear. The 10 immoral courses of action will flourish excessively. There will be no word for moral among such humans, or less any moral agent. Among such humans, brethren, they who lack filial and religious piety and show no respect for the head of the clan, this they to whom homage and praise will be given, just as today homage and praise are given to the filial minded, to the pious, and to them who respect the heads of the clan. 20. Among such humans, brethren, there will be no such thoughts of reverence as are to the bar to intermarriage with mother or mother's sister or mother's sister-in-law or teacher's wife or father's sister-in-law. world will fall into promiscuity, like goats and sheep, fowl and swine, dogs and jackals. Among such humans, brethren, keen mutual enmity will become the rule. Keen ill will, keen animosity, passionate thoughts even of killing in a mother towards her child, in a child towards its father, in brother to brother, brother to sister, sister to brother. Just as sportsman feels towards the game that he sees, so will they feel. This is probably the finest picture of what happens when moral force fails and brutal force takes its place. What the Buddha wanted was that each man should be morally so trained that he may himself become a sentinel for the kingdom of righteousness. The end.